The following content is strictly intended for educational and entertainment purposes. It presents a faithful transcript of testimonies from a federal trial of Diddy, as reported by inner-city press inside the courtroom where the Diddy case is unfolding. The atmosphere shifts dramatically when an unexpected witness steps in, dressed in a dark suit and discreetly wearing a federal badge. Former FBI investigator Mark Alperin walks to the witness stand, and his arrival brings total silence to the room. The revelations he's about to make go far beyond any celebrity scandal. According to his testimony, we're looking at an organized system, a protection network reaching into the highest spheres of American power. Former President Barack Obama is directly named, once a symbol of hope for millions, now potentially tied to exclusive parties and protection mechanisms surrounding Diddy. According to Alperin, the decades of immunity Diddy enjoyed weren't due to brilliant lawyers, but because of his usefulness to powerful individuals. The case reveals disturbing links between politics, religious institutions, the music industry, and a hidden network of control operating since the 1990s. Despite the packed courtroom, the audience holds its breath. The tension increases as the back doors open to reveal a man in a dark suit holding a briefcase. No formal announcement is made, no introduction. The judge simply nods in approval, signaling the entrance of an extraordinary witness. This is not an ordinary person, but someone who has operated in the shadows with unprecedented access, far beyond what any journalist or private investigator could ever obtain. Identified only as special agent, this federal officer from Han spent decades in the FBI's divisions for organized crime and political corruption. Today, for the first time, he testifies under oath about Diddy. The agent takes a seat, opens his briefcase, and places a thick black file on the stand. He carefully avoids looking at Diddy, who remains expressionless at the defense table, his fists clenched. He doesn't look at the jury either. He simply says, "I have been monitoring Mr. Combs and his business activities for over 20 years. This surveillance isn't new. What's new is that we're finally allowed to speak about it." The judge gestures for him to continue. The agent reveals that the FBI initiated preliminary investigations into Diddy in the late 1990s. The warning signs were constant, he explains. "We observed unexplained financial movements and private events linked to known trafficking networks, international connections tied to front companies. Yet every time they got close, everything suddenly shut down." The agent describes a 2001 case, an international undercover operation on money laundering involving an associate of Bad Boy Records in Europe. The evidence pointed straight to Diddy's financial teams, showing offshore accounts, fraudulent invoices, and shell companies in Luxembourg. But just when it was time to get the search warrants, authorization was denied. "That's when I understood," he says, "we weren't just up against celebrity protection. We were facing federal interference." A ripple of murmurs spreads through the room. "I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist," he continues, "but this wasn't a local police force getting intimidated. The orders were coming from the top. People in Washington told us to back off. Files disappeared. Witnesses were relocated. Investigators reassigned. At first, we thought it was coincidence, but it wasn't." The prosecution then presents a detailed timeline of obstructed investigations spanning from 1999 to 2013. Each time Diddy was tied to criminal activity, either a key witness vanished or a federal delay froze the case. A juror reacts in visible shock. A woman in the gallery gasps and covers her mouth. Then comes a shocking revelation. In 2003, the FBI believed that Mr. Combs was receiving unofficial informant-level protection, the kind that never appears in public records. Only the highest authorities can grant such protection. At that time, only 3 individuals in the federal system had that power. The room freezes. Diddy seems to recognize exactly who those 3 people are. The special agent leans toward the microphone and clears his throat. "This is where the story shifts," he announces, "because we're no longer just talking about the crimes that were committed. We're talking about those who allowed them to continue." This leads directly to Mr. Diddy's relationships with top political figures, including Barack Obama. The courtroom falls into stunned silence. Even the judge slowly lifts his head, his eyes narrowing. The agent opens a black file and shows the jury a series of photographs. The first is a grainy 2005 image of Diddy next to Senator Barack Obama at a fundraiser in Chicago. The next, dated 2007, is from a private, unofficial event in Washington hosted by a powerful lobbying group with deep ties to the Democratic National Committee. Diddy appears under a pseudonym, but the photo leaves no doubt about his identity. He was there, and he wasn't alone. "These weren't just photo ops," the agent explains. "They were, what if the truth wasn't hidden in shadows, but but sitting quietly behind sealed courtroom doors all along. During high-level closed-door sessions, the agent revealed something explosive. Mr. Combs wasn't just a celebrity under investigation. He was allegedly involved in intelligence exchanges with campaign operatives. The trade? Information about others, in return for protection. Before the agent could finish his statement, the defense objected, but the prosecution came prepared. Travel logs, email metadata, and more. Then came a moment of thunder. In 2009, shortly after President Obama's inauguration, our office submitted a wiretap request targeting Mr. Combs, the agent said. The goal? To intercept conversations between Combs and known drug traffickers laundering money through bad boy records. The request? Denied. Denied by whom? Asked the prosecutor. The agent flipped to the final page, an official call log linked to a legal office associated with the White House. The name was redacted. The timestamp wasn't. The judge urged the jury to disregard speculation, but it was too late. The silence in the courtroom now felt loaded. How had a man under federal surveillance gained such reach that a White House-level call could shut down a federal wiretap? We're not accusing President Obama of personally protecting Mr. Combs, the agent clarified. But we assert that his administration created a channel, a relationship, that effectively granted him immunity for years. Journalists scrambled. The court stenographer paused. This wasn't luck. It was a blueprint, strategic, sustained, and backed by power few imagined. And this, as the agent warned, was only the beginning. The jury leaned in. Then came the photo. Not grainy, not secret. A high-resolution image from 2014. A private reception at Martha's Vineyard. In the frame, Diddy, Barack Obama, Reverend Al Sharpton. No press, no stage. Just a dimly lit gathering on a billionaire tech mogul's estate. Someone tied to both entertainment and defense contracting. They called it charity dinner, the agent said. But we acquired the guest list through court-approved sources. Many were linked to sealed investigations, former CIA agents, sanctioned arms dealers. The judge slammed the gavel. Whispers erupted. Mr. Combs wasn't there as a guest, the agent continued. He was a conduit, feeding street-level intelligence into marble corridors of power. In return, his transgressions were forgiven. A juror dropped their pen. Then the story darkened. In 2012, a Miami anti-narcotics sting arrested a close Combs associate during an illegal foreign transfer. This case should have been front-page news, the agent said, his voice low. But 48 hours later, the file was sealed. Agents were reassigned, the suspect freed, and it was all gone. When asked how, the agent replied, "A single phone call came from a Capitol Hill extension. That's all we know." He submitted internal memos and agent emails full of confusion and interference. One line stood out. "Don't ask why this was buried. Just be glad you weren't in the room." Then came perhaps the darkest chapter. In 2015, the agent said, "We monitored Mr. Combs' movements, Haiti, Colombia, then private Caribbean islands. At first, we thought it was recreational, but intel from foreign partners suggested otherwise." He described meetings with financiers tied to cartels, yacht parties, and women flown in under the impression they were auditioning for American Idol. When court resumed, the room was no longer curious. It was shaken. This wasn't just a trial of a music mogul. It was a crumbling of illusions, safety, equality, justice. Then came the final shock. "We believe," the agent began, voice heavy, "that a collection of surveillance tapes exists, filmed across multiple Combs properties, dating back to 2003. How did they know? Because some of them briefly passed through federal hands." He pressed a remote. A projector flickered on, revealing a dated still image from a security room inside one of Diddy's Los Angeles estates. This image was leaked by a whistleblower from a now-defunct private security firm hired by Mr. Combs. Over 30 monitors, bedrooms, hallways, pools, many cameras hidden, subjects unknowingly recorded. And here, the agent said, is where it gets far more disturbing. The agent's voice cuts through the silence. "In 2016, we secured a warrant to seize 3 hard drives believed to contain the recordings. But when agents arrived at the designated property, a fire had already broken out in the server room. It was confirmed as arson. Less than 20 minutes had passed since the authorization had been granted. That suggests an internal leak," the agent continued. "Only one drive survived, miraculously recovered from a vault in Puerto Rico, owned by a close associate. Its contents? Video footage showing Mr. Combs in intimate settings with celebrities, businessmen, and political figures. many appearing intoxicated, others visibly coerced. Was Barack Obama on those tapes? Asked the prosecutor directly. No, replied the agent. But several close friends, donors, and political allies of the Obama administration were. Mr. Combs referred to them by first name. He knew their secrets. He kept those tapes as leverage. The courtroom froze. Then came the chilling line. In the end, the agent said Diddy wasn't collecting those tapes for vanity. He used them as currency, as protection, in case someone ever tried to take him down. That night, the media reported the revelation. But behind closed doors, the only question that mattered began circulating at the highest levels. What really happened? The next morning, court resumed under heavy security. Federal marshals lined the walls. A new air had settled in the room, the kind that lingers when corruption has metastasized far beyond its origin. The special agent returned to the stand, this time holding a sealed envelope. He requested the judge open it in private. Inside was a classified memo with a header for an agency rarely uttered in courtrooms, the CIA. This document, he stated, has been declassified solely for this trial. It came from the CIA's Domestic Operations Division and was marked high risk. The judge allowed the summary to be read aloud. Starting in the mid-2000s, the agent began, Mr. Combs was identified as a high-value cultural influencer, potentially useful for domestic maneuvering. He was flagged by multiple departments for his ties to known arms dealers, offshore bankers, and intelligence-linked figures in Eastern Europe and West Africa. The agent paused. The CIA didn't formally recruit Mr. Combs, he clarified, but they benefited from his access, his parties, his events, his network, offering rare behavioral data. In return, he was allowed to operate with little to no legal interference. Are you saying the CIA allowed him to commit crimes? The prosecutor asked. I'm saying, the agent replied, they found his actions useful. They may not have sanctioned the crimes, but they certainly ignored them. Then came a deeper revelation. The agent produced a notarized ledger, a document listing wire transfers made through shell companies linked to Combs. Some were routed through TriStar Intertech and entities connected to the Britney Spears conservatorship. The recipients? High-level political consultants and lobbyists. The implication was undeniable. Diddy wasn't acting alone. He was part of a well-funded, tightly managed circuit. Influence peddling, blackmail, information warfare. And just when it felt the courtroom had reached its limit, the agent dropped the final blow. We believe, he said, that one of Mr. Combs' offshore accounts was used to purchase classified intel from a former NSA contractor. That contractor is now deceased. Gasps filled the room. The judge slammed his gavel, demanding order. But even Diddy's attorneys looked shaken, unsure how to respond. Then came one final, stunning detail. Mr. Combs, the agent said, had the president's phone number. A stunned murmur spread through the gallery. In 2014, he continued, after a scandal erupted involving foreign guests and a major music industry event, our team attempted to intercept Mr. Combs' return to the U.S. from St. Barthélemy. A customs alert was issued. His private jet was scheduled for inspection upon landing in Miami. The agent held up a file. This DHS alert was active for 37 minutes. Then, suddenly, canceled. Why? The prosecutor asked. Because someone from President Obama's administration contacted Homeland Security. The call lasted 41 seconds. That's all we know. The number traced back to a secure line used by the White House counsel's office. The alert vanished. The case was dropped. Diddy walked out of the airport untouched. Surveillance footage showed him smiling as he entered a black car. Within 48 hours, he had donated $500,000 to a political action committee closely aligned with Obama's re-election efforts. The coincidence was impossible to ignore. The courtroom sat in stunned silence. The agent inhaled deeply. I'm not here to accuse the former president, he said. I'm here to show that Mr. Combs had access that no one else would ever be granted. And he used it to shield his crimes, to silence victims, to protect an empire. And in that moment, the courtroom realized this wasn't just about Diddy. This was about a system of power, wrapping itself tight around the world.